Welcome to the We Nurture podcast, where we give you the tools to help your child blossom. I'm Chinya Lu. Today on Inspirational Wednesday, I'll be talking about how cooking with your child nurtures and nourishes them. As with all our Wednesday episodes this season, you can watch the video version on YouTube. And to those of you already watching, welcome. I know I've said this before, probably lots of times, that young children learn about themselves and the world around them from the experiences that we provide for them. And helping to prepare meals, cooking with us in the kitchen is a lifelong skill that they learn early and build on. From a very young age, children watch the adults in their lives doing real work with their hands, and they're interested in helping with household tasks, like putting the laundry in the machine, washing dishes, folding laundry, sweeping, and so many other tasks, including helping to, prepare food like snacks or cooking meals. And then they're also interested in growing a garden and so much more. They're inspired by what they see us do. So then it's only natural for them to want to experience through helping. Now, my personal love of food began when I was a child growing up in Nigeria. I grew up loving not only the foods of Nigeria, but also how people lived so closely with the land. My mother is, to her core, a deep lover of food, and I recall growing up cooking by her side. It was during, this time that my love for food and cooking developed its deep, deep roots. Not long after, I also developed a love for gardening. I created and tended a garden in our backyard where we had a few chickens and a goat. My garden harvest became so abundant that I ended up taking extras from my harvest to a local farmer's market where I could then barter in exchange for other produce. It was such a fun time. I also loved baking bread with my mother. I remember the many samplings of warm, sliced, and buttered bread we enjoyed many afternoons. In our kitchen, we made just about everything from scratch, like mayonnaise and soups and biscuits. Because I was nurtured by these experiences, I continued this tradition with my son, who's the oldest of my 3 children, and I invited him to help with meal prep and with cooking from around the age of 2, or I could say perhaps even a little younger. And when he was 2, on his second birthday, I purchased a wooden play kitchen for him and set it up along with a little, table and chairs just his size in the kitchen so he could be close to me and using his own imagination, that he could be there helping. Many years ago, as a young mom new to Waldorf education, I came to learn that cooking, especially in early childhood, is an integral part of the Waldorf curriculum in early childhood. And it's one way to connect children to the natural world and help them develop a relationship with nature, gardening, and the foods that they eat. When children help to prepare a meal, they see the food, and in particular, the whole food. We want to give them these experiences, as this helps them connect to what they're going to eat. So instead of like opening a can of beans or a jar of applesauce, in a Waldorf classroom, the children are involved in washing the vegetables, peeling the vegetables, or fruit, and like, for example, chopping apples that'll be made into applesauce, and they'll then eat at snack time. Not that I have anything against opening a jar of applesauce or can of beans. Having these experiences also is very nourishing. And nourishment from food doesn't just begin with eating food. Nourishment, I believe, from a holistic perspective, is the entire experience. And when it comes to food, this begins with our relationship with the food that we eat. Now, Waldorf Early Childhood Education builds upon the idea that young children need to be immersed in environments at school and at home where they are surrounded by adults, like I mentioned, doing real work with their hands, and adults that are engaged in practical activities that are part of the daily rhythm of caring for the home. And if they're in a school, caring for the school environment. As an early childhood teacher, when I was teaching in the classroom, my role while working alongside my assistant was to go about the day tending to what needed to be cared for, like preparing the snack, cooking lunch, folding our laundry, watering our indoor plants, and so much more, as well as, of course, our main goal, our main task was supporting the children in their social interactions and their play. So instead of assigning tasks or jobs to the children, my assistant's role and my role was to simply live like one would live in the home, and also to include the children when they wanted to help. And not, like I said, assigning tasks, but inviting them. Not only do children learn the basic skills of life in this way, but they also see that participating in practical day-to-day activities and projects are desirable acts of belonging to community. And then if you're of course, doing this in the home, belonging as a member of the home. So now engaging your child in cooking can happen quite easily at home. You don't have to think of it as a daunting, complicated process or something that's out of your reach. The question is, are you willing to accept that it will not be perfect, and that it will be messy, and that it will take longer? And if your answer is a resounding yes, this is your first step to confidently inviting and including your child in cooking. Cooking with your young child nurtures a life skill. As I mentioned earlier, it creates lifelong memories, too, of cooking with you, as it did for me with my mother. And it nurtures your child's bond with you. It also builds self-esteem, when they see what they can do with their hands. And it encourages your child to try new foods. Cooking and helping to prepare food also teaches pre-math skills, surprisingly. It nourishes their senses, develops fine motor skills and eye-hand coordination, and develops confidence, as I mentioned earlier, as they work with their hands, stirring, spreading, kneading dough, washing vegetables and fruit, measuring, rolling like in cookie dough, and so much more. And other benefits include social emotional development. Cooking with you and talking and engaging together, following your instructions, while also having the opportunity to experiment, how foods can taste, together. These are like problem-solving skills that can develop here too. Language development is also part of this, helping to cook in the kitchen. This happens ever so naturally while your child is there helping, to cook with you. They'll ask questions, you'll describe what you're doing together and how they can help. They'll learn new words and the names of the variety of foods that you cook with. And then thinking of physical development, on a physical level, children develop fine motor skills when we invite them to help. And as I mentioned earlier, hand-eye coordination. This all develops through chopping, mixing, stirring, squeezing, like in lemons, and in other ways where their hands and eyes need to work together. And then there's cognitive development. Cooking brings out a child's creative side and thinking side, and they will come up with ideas that we don't think of. Cooking also gives children opportunities to further their cognitive development as they get to repeat experiences like measuring and counting, as well as following a sequence, for example, when it comes to like a recipe, which of course you will guide them through, and they'll be watching. There are just so many wonderful benefits to cooking with young children. And if your young child is given consistent opportunities, even from when they're really young, and, to help in the kitchen with preparing a meal. This really does present wonderful ways to connect your child, as well as to, teach them lifelong skills. And when it comes to age, there are a few things to consider. Your 2-year-old can help with simple tasks and still be involved with meal prep. They can help with scrubbing vegetables, rinsing, washing them, and fruits, in the sink or in a tub of water that you provide on a child, size level for them. They can help with stirring and mixing. They love to do this. They can even help with chopping vegetables, which, of course, you'll need to cut into smaller, manageable sizes since, they're still learning to use, their large muscles and having that coordination. Now, developmentally, 3-year-olds have greater control of their hands and their body movement and can do more when it comes to meal prep and helping to cook. They can knead dough. They can roll, out cookie dough. They can spread butters or other spreads on toast. They can chop vegetables and fruit, after washing them. They can just do a whole lot more sequentially. They can pour liquids. They can dish up food and put things in the trash after cooking and more. 4 and 5-year-olds have even greater control of their fine motor skills. And so you can involve them in helping out in more ways. Although you might just discover that your younger child can do activities like measuring ingredients and setting the table, peeling fruits and vegetables, juicing lemons and oranges, mixing ingredients, clearing the table after a meal, and of course more. So don't be fixed or locked into your child's age, even though I'm giving you some examples here. See what your child can do. Children can really surprise us. I suggest giving your child opportunities to help out in as many ways as possible. They will also be so proud of what they can do, and you'll be amazed by how capable, they are as they are given these opportunities. Helping out in the kitchen means that your child will need tools that they can easily and safely work with. That's, very important. First, I recommend getting a child-sized wooden cutting board and a safe vegetable and fruit chopper that's child-friendly. You'll find a couple of links in the show notes to sites that I recommend. Let your child help whenever you are preparing a meal or a snack. If children have their own safe tools that are easily accessible to them, this also encourages participation. And make meal prep fun. It doesn't have to be stressful, especially, if you let your child just experience, explore, and experiment. Remember, they want to learn from you. So if you guide them calmly, they will find cooking to be joyful. Tune in tomorrow for Seasonal Thursday. We'd love to have you connect with us on Instagram at @we_nurture. And we're so grateful when our listeners rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast because this helps us reach more parents. We have a new children's book that you can purchase for your child. It's called The 3 Little Deers and the Great Storm. It's a companion book to episode 50 on the Stories for Children podcast. You'll find all the details on our website at wenurturecollective.com. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching.